So hello and welcome to today's session. This session, like we said last time, is the second and final part of our series on analyzing portfolios. In today's session, we will look at two asset classes, and in the second half of this session, we will also go through a couple of spreadsheet templates. Okay, like I shared in the chat box, please use the spreadsheet link that I have given. You will not be able to edit the sheet. Therefore, I suggest that you either make a copy in a local copy or use your Gmail ID to make a copy and sign in. Um, so this session will be split into three parts. In the first part, I will do a quick recap of what we explained in the previous session. Then our speaker for today's session, Mr. Sai Prashant, will tell you about debt and equity as asset classes. In the final part of this session, I will walk you through two spreadsheet templates which explain where a person, two spreadsheet templates which explain the current financial situation of any investor and where he or she should be after a certain period. Okay, as always, a few ground rules. Please save your questions until the end of the session. Please keep them relevant for this topic. And whatever questions you have, please keep posting them in the chat box. After the end of the session, we will attend to all the questions one by one. Thank you. So, so like I said, in the previous session, we made a comparison between asset allocation and a balanced diet. Basically, the balanced diet about which you learned in schools is the best analogy or best comparison for asset allocation. What is asset allocation? Asset allocation is how you distribute different asset classes in your portfolio. Each asset class is basically a group of investments which behave similarly when it comes to risk, taxation, growth, relation to economy, and other such aspects. Not only these aspects behave, not only do these asset classes behave similarly, but they are also different from each other. So, for example, the best case would be how equity and debt are inversely proportional. Okay, so they have negative correlation with each other. And finally, like I said in the in the previous session, asset allocation is your starting point, the first communication that you will probably have with any investor. Moving on to real estate as an asset class. In our previous session, I shared a few stats around how Indians and Indian governments love real estate. Like I said, as you can see from this chart, India as a major economy spends most of its household savings on real estate. The governments also love it. It's also the most problematic asset class. Real estate, like I said, has some inherent problems with illiquidity, low returns, depreciation tax. In the case of India, there are a lot of legal problems associated with real estate, which people tend to overlook. And finally, a point that a lot of people don't get: real estate doesn't be the rent from the rental yield or the rent from a property, it does not beat inflation, and the price does not always appreciate. This, a lot of people say that real estate always appreciates. uh, the honest answer is that it's a misconception. The last few years have shown that even real estate prices can stagnate. Moving on to gold. Like real estate, India likes gold more than other asset classes. Like real estate, we have a cultural and emotional bond with gold. As an asset class, gold does well when economy does badly. That will explain why in the first half of 2020, like during the peak of COVID, gold prices rose so high. And when COVID started declining, when COVID cases started falling, gold prices also started falling. As I will show in the next graph, gold tends to increase in spurts. And for these reasons, your allocation towards gold should be anywhere between 5 to 15%. As you can see in this graph, gold, it stays stagnant for a long period of time and it tends to increase in spurts. Okay. So yeah, with that, this was the recap of what we discussed in the previous session. With that, over to you, Sai.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So going through the debt is the same. Everyone thinks about the debt as a safest instrument or fixed income class. But what happens is it promises some money return. Like you are giving a loan to a bank or something where you will get your money back at a some fixed rate of interest. Let's say it might be 5% if it is an FD, if it is an RD, otherwise bonds, debentures. There are so many instruments in the market. So, but it will promises you the return of money. The second point is here the low risk, low return, low volatility. What is low risk? What happens is, as it is a loan kind of stuff, you will get the lower return. Why? Because you are not risking entire of your money to the company. It is not like you are holding the company. You are just giving a loan to a company. So your risk is less. So company's risk is high to pay you. So that's the reason low risk, low return, low volatility. It appeared to the secured loan. Here we are discussing only about secured loan. There is something called unsecured loan also that will have little bit higher risk, a little bit higher return, little bit volatility will be there. So as compared to secured and unsecured, we are directly discussing as it is a debt or fixed income. We are mostly discussing about a secured loan. And third party is who should be investing in this debt or fixed income class. The person who is conservative in nature. The person conservative in the nature in the sense, if 1 rupee goes down also, he will be frightened why it went down, why it went down. So this kind of people are the ideal investor for fixed income, or the retired people. So retired people will not be thinking about taking risk. Why? Because they are FD kind of mentalities. Why? Because when they are working, their FD returns are like 10%, 11%, 12% also. Sometimes banks offer 12% also. I'm telling about small finance banks, not the privatized banks or nationalized banks. So it is ideal for the conservative or retired people. When you see the taxation, so when we are comparing this product, taxation is also important. Why? Because if you are making some 5 crores of FD and every month you are taking the return, let's take 5 crores of FD into 6%, that is 30 lakhs a year. So if you are taking the 30 lakhs a year, then you have to pay 30 lakhs into 30%. Why? Because 10%, 30% is your tax slab. So 9 lakhs will go as tax only. So your return is 21 lakhs only. Literally you are losing 39 lakhs. That is mostly how much? 30%. And apart from that, you have to pay surcharge on that. So mostly you are losing almost 35 to 40% of your thing as taxation only. And currently, if you see, nationalized banks are offering 5.5% as the most rate of returns. So how to think about the fixed income or the debt part? First thing, your age is proportional. Directly, greater the age, greater the allocation. If your age is 60, then you should be at least having 60 to 70% in debt instruments. Then risk is based on your duration, credit rating, or yield to maturity. There are three types of mutual funds, or three types. Most probably, there are three categories. One is based on duration. If you are holding long duration, short duration, what is the duration of the paper? Second thing, what is the duration of your holding? How many days you have to hold it? Then credit rating. What is this credit rating? Is whether the company is well established or not. If not, why? So then yield to maturity. This is a total different concept. What is yield to maturity is today I'm keeping, tomorrow what is my yield to maturity when it matures, what will they be the returns of my paper. So most probably when you see the lowest duration, it will be overnight fund, where companies are trying to hold the fund for 2 days, 3 days. When the risk is increasing, the company also will start increasing the capacity of the funds. Like, I will give the maturity of 10 years, I will give you the maturity of 5
Hi,
years.
sorry to interrupt. Can you perhaps speak from a position where, like your audio is breaking? Can you maybe try adjusting something?
1 minute.
Or you can maybe try speaking a little slowly.
Am I audible now?
You're audible. Your voice sometimes breaks. But anyway, please continue.
So I'm talking about what is the duration, what is the credit risk, what is the yield to maturity. Duration is nothing but how many days I'm holding, or how many days the company is giving me the maturity of that fixed deposit, NCD, or any debt instrument. So based on that, we have to see based on the duration, based on the credit risk, based on the yield to maturity. Duration wise, how many years you are holding, months, days. If it is days, then overnight fund. Why? Because I will hold for 3, 4 days. When I am increasing, low liquid fund comes, money market, short duration, ultra short, then medium duration, medium to long duration, government of India securities funds. Credit risk funds are there, then corporate bond funds. These are the different kinds of categories in debt. Higher the risk, higher the return. Here also the same. Higher the duration, higher the return. Higher the credit risk, higher the return. Higher the maturity, higher the return. Simple. And your risk also will increase with your duration, with your credit rating, and with your yield to maturity. If the rating of the paper is new, let's take double, otherwise A minus, B minus, C minus. These are just established company. They want funds. Instead of going to a bank, what they will do is they will approach the individuals. Why? Because individuals will give at the lesser rate of interest. That's how a person or a company will go for the debt. As I told, it's a loan. So now we'll discuss about equities. So equity, at any point of time, equity is nothing but part of your holding. It's a core for your portfolio. So when you say why it is a core for your portfolio, I don't think people will say, I have bought a land in 1980s and holding it and made so much of profit. But people used to say, I bought Wipro shares, Reliance shares at that point of time, and I made crores of rupees. Why? Because equity is the part of holding. And people used to hold it long. Why? Because they used to buy and they used to forget. It is as a kind of investment. So why people used to get a lot of money? They are owning the proportion of the firm. Let's take I as a company issues the shares. That is called shareholding. That is called equity. Then, as I said previously, high returns, high volatility, high rewards. Simple. Whenever you take high risk, automatically your returns are subjected to the risk you have taken. Volatility will be there. It's like, so when you see at the time of COVID, there is so much of volatility. Sometimes index, here we used to call as index, Sensex, otherwise Nifty 50, Nifty 100. These are index. Why? Because they are having some criteria to get into that index. Based on that index, we used to see high risk, high volatility. Then what is the next? Next is all about taxation. When you see the better taxation, why? Because long-term capital gain tax or short-term capital gain tax is better than debt. When you see short-term capital gain tax in debt less than 3 years, it is as per your tax slab. Suppose you are working professional and you are at the 30% tax slab, directly 30% is going. But here equities is not like that. After 1 year, 10%, after 1 lakh of profit. If it is less than 1 year, it is 15%. Anyhow, it is less. In debt 3 years. Here it is less than 1 year. Fine. I will hold it for 1 year. And I can set off with the losses I made. That also can be possible. If there is any losses in my equities, I can set off. Then what happens is how equities, suppose let's take everyone used to say economy is in bad shape, but Sensex and Nifty is moving like crazy. Why? What happens is before economy used to correct, this index used to, I mean, index is nothing but people buying and selling. So if people are buying more, that doesn't matter that company is going in a top direction. It's all about the demand and supply. Share market works on this simple phenomena, demand and supply, with the help of a mediator called NSE or BSE. So how it works is I have a demand. Why? Because I'm thinking the shares will go up. So I have a demand for 500 shares and there is a supply of 500 shares. So my demand is at 100 rupees, but the supply is at 99 rupees. So it won't match and the sale won't happen. So like this bids and auctions will have, this is kind of a bid and auctions. So once bid and ask matches, then the sale will happen. That's how brokers will be doing that with the help of bid and ask process. Next thing is whenever you are buying equities, long term, everyone used to tell about long term. What is the long term? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? That doesn't matter. The only thing is returns. Don't think about stock. Let's take HDFC has given 20% return. Next year it might not. Next year Reliance might be giving 20% return. My thing is money. So happily sell the 20% profit and again buy another company. So here every HDFC bank has gone from 100 to 1000. But in that momentum, it has gone down so many times, gone up so many times. But every time when you can buy at the dips and sell at a draft, then you are making so much of money and holding it. This is how a fundamental investor will do. So let's take every time in news there will be some news about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Radhakrishna Damani, or this kind of people. Why? Because they don't time the market. But whenever they get the market down, whenever the share falls down, they buy more. Instead of buying one share, they used to buy 10 shares. And when they see the fundamentals, if the company will not go beyond that, simply they will sell the share and they will invest in the other company. They are not sentimental towards the company. In India, what happens is people are sentimental towards the company. That doesn't work. That's why Indian community growth is very high when compared to US. What happens is US people are not so fundamental. I mean, not so sentimental because of that. They used to buy and sell. And whenever you are investing in a company, first of all, understand that company. It's not like you don't understand the company you are investing. First, when you understand the company, then only you have to invest. It's not like I will invest in all the companies and I will make. You should understand what they do. Based on that understanding, you can invest. So different types of equity investments are first thing is mutual funds and direct equities, EMS, AF, hedge funds, direct equities, unlisted stocks. So if one has its own clauses. So direct equities is directly buying yourself. Directly you are analyzing the shares and you are buying it. Then unlisted stocks are the stocks you are buying before the IPO. Mutual funds is like you are taking the help of the fund manager and the fund manager is helping you buy and selling of the shares and he is taking the fund management charge. Even the PMS, mutual fund is the pool of money, whereas PMS and AF is not the pool of money. It is specifically for you. Even hedge fund is also specifically for you. These are the HNIs investments where the investment starts from 50 and ranges to 5 crores. So every investment has its pros and cons.
Thanks, Sai. I'll take it from here. So, Sai, a couple of things. If my voice is breaking, please let me know first. Secondly, as always, please keep admitting people as and when they come and join the waiting room. Okay. Sai, can you hear me?
Yes, Srini.
Okay. Yeah. So let's start. See, ideally, as we discussed in our earlier session, your portfolio should look something like this. 40% equity, about 20% debt, 20% property. This is how it should look like, ideally. But if you recall what we said in our earlier session, on Tuesday, in practical life, your portfolio would look something like this. If you look at this, basically, most people have put their money in property. Okay. I know this, like I said, there is an entire RBI report that gives you a lot of detail on this. I know from my own personal life, people around me, most people, in their 30s, the first thing that they do is take a home loan, start paying EMIs, and yes, basically depend on property to increase their portfolio. Now, the reason I am mentioning it here is because there's a very fundamental problem with property. So let's take, for example, a friend of mine. He has a net worth of about 2 crore rupees. Now, the problem with changing his portfolio is that nearly 70% of his money is stuck in real estate, which means that even if I'm able to convince him that, okay, say about 1 crore to 1.2 crore of your net worth should be in mutual funds, should be in debt, or should be in equity, it will still take him 2 years for him to sell all his property, then maybe a few more months to decide where he wants to invest. This is a practical problem which I believe you will also face. Tomorrow, if you were to ask someone around you, there's a good chance that he or she will say that, a lot of my money is stuck in real estate. So then what do I do? So this is a practical problem that I wanted to tell you before I start. Before I go further, let me, you know, do a few quick exercises. Let's do a few polls. Okay, so here's the first one. Do you know how much money you have now? Okay. So we end the poll. The results are something like this. 60% of you said that you have a rough idea. 10% said you have no idea. And about 30% said that they have a very clear idea. Let's do our second poll. Do you know how much money you will need in future, or do you have a goal for money? All right. So the results of this poll are very surprising. So guess what? More than one third of people, 35% of people have not calculated at all the money that they will need in future. Okay. Another third, they have a rough idea. And the last remaining one third have a clear idea. So again, more than 2/3 of people in this group, okay, people who want to be financial advisors, they either have a rough idea or they have no idea. Okay. So now, if you look at the answers to these two questions, you can only imagine what will be the knowledge or the awareness level of the average investor. The average investor, let's say, who is in his 40s or 50s, is very conservative, thinks that real estate is good, gold is always good, investing is always risky, who believes in misconceptions like these. You can only imagine what will be their awareness level. Okay. By the way, the other reason that I showed these two questions was that these are the two questions that we will try to answer now. And we are not done yet. We just have one final poll. Okay. And this is a much simpler, much simpler question that I'm about to ask. Okay. So it's exact 50-50. Okay. I'll share the results. As you can see, half of you have downloaded the sheet link, half of you haven't. For those who joined a little late, I am sharing the link here again. Please, like I said, please either download this or make a copy. The reason I, by the way, asked you whether you are ready to do this or not is because you can learn a lot about investing just by listening. Okay. But what we are about to do is something that you can learn only by doing. Okay. And by doing, I mean you have to sit with a pen and paper, or in this case, you have to sit with a spreadsheet and do the numbers like we are about to do. Okay. You have to learn by doing. And due to this fundamental constraint, we will not be able to do a deep dive when it comes to portfolio analysis, like fund managers who do portfolio analysis for even our own fund manager at Wealthy. They consider hundreds of parameters, do back testing for different periods over many decades, then consider factors like volatility, risk, benchmark, etc. That as much as we would love to cover it here, that is little out of scope for today's presentation. So we will be focusing only on two questions. Where are you today financially, and where do you want to be? Before we finally go to the presentation, I would like to make a quick point here. Okay. The presentation, the spreadsheet that I've shared with you is my way of how I would approach an investor, find out where he is today and where he wants to be tomorrow. That is my approach. I'm not claiming that this is a God-given approach or that this is the best approach for doing. The best template is still the one that you build. Okay. So like recipes, okay, think of it like recipes. Uh, you can get the recipe of a world-class chef by doing a little Google search. But why is it that only a few people become world-class chefs? The reason for that is you need to know how to use those ingredients, right? So coming to the spreadsheet, okay, ideally what I want each one of you to do after today's session is maybe speak to a relative and build your own spreadsheet like this. Okay, in whichever way you want, you can choose your formatting, your formulas, and honestly it's not a big deal. It, at least the spreadsheets that I've shared with you, it is built on four simple mathematical operations, which you learned in fifth standard: addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. Okay. So with that, we will move on to the more interactive session of today's presentation. Again, just to summarize, we will try to answer two questions. Where are you today financially? Where do you want to be? Okay. All right. I will stop sharing and I will share my spreadsheet now. 1 minute. Let me quickly go through a few questions that we may have got. Okay. Okay. Yep. Give me a minute. Let me. All right. Sai, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. If like in our earlier session, we had asked you to speak to a few investors, maybe a few people in your circle, and get their asset allocation. Has anyone done that? And if yes, you can either message or raise your hand, and we could take your numbers right now. Do we have any volunteers? Anyone who can anyone? Okay, we have Mr. Bhuvan Kumar. 1 minute. Okay, let me start with Bhuvan. You can now speak. Can you unmute yourself and answer the questions that I'm about to ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so you are seeing this where my cell is, right? So
Yeah.
you will be telling me the annual income. Okay, for all those of you are listening, these numbers are given in lakhs of rupees. Okay, so when I say 1.2, it means 1.2 lakhs per annum. When I say property 150, it means he has 1.5 crores. I didn't want to add too many zeros, so I have put it in lakhs of rupees. So Bhuvan, tell me,
Yeah.
so I will erase all that I've written here. Okay.
Okay.
We will. So so okay, let's say if you have spoken to an investor, can you tell me his annual income in lakhs?
Mine.
Any
That's
investor, yours, it could be your friends, anyone.
yeah, 16 lakhs.
16 lakhs, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much property does he own? Again, in lakhs of rupees.
Property owns around 25 lakhs. Yes.
25 lakhs or crores?
Lakhs.
25 lakhs. Okay.
Gold he owns about 12 lakhs.
12 lakhs. Debt. And
Debt
by
he.
debt, I mean, PPF, FD, anything that has a fixed return. Or
Oh,
the
okay.
funds, by the way.
That is about 16. That is also about 16.
Okay, not bad. Equity?
Equity is about 5 lakhs.
5. How much cash does he have?
That I'm not sure, but I'll take a guess saying about 7 to 8.
Okay, let's go with 8. Now, this is what he owns. Okay.
Yeah.
How much is he earning? So does this does his property fetch him any rental income?
Yes, it does.
How much approximately? Like if we go with a rental yield of say 4%.
Okay. About 6 lakhs in here.
6 lakhs a year in rent for a property
Yes.
of 25 lakhs. Are you sure?
Yes.
Is this a commercial property? Because honestly, the rental yield even for commercial properties does not go beyond 7-8%. Okay, so which means if he has a property worth rupees 25 lakhs, even the best that he can get would be somewhere around 1 or 2 lakhs per annum.
Per annum, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to reconsider your figure?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We'll pick it 2 lakhs.
Okay. Yeah. So let's 1 minute. Let's make it 2 lakhs. Gold. Let's assume that it appreciates by 6%. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, debt. Again, we will do the same. Okay, debt also. We will assume that it's growing by 6%. Equity, we will assume that it's growing by 9%. Are those assumptions okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
And cash. Cash, by the way, doesn't grow. Okay, like. So, how much is he spending?
Spending on property.
Yeah, spending on property. Yes,
Spending on property, I would say
as in
spend on,
depreciation and taxes.
yeah, you might be spending around uh 6 lakhs after deductions, I think.
How is that possible? So basically, you're saying that his property is making him a loss. See, depreciation and tax. Like for example, for a 25 lakh property, I don't know, he'll be paying around maybe anywhere between 10 to 15,000 as tax, maybe another
Hmm.
25,000.
Hmm.
Okay, it
Okay.
is per annum. Because if you are saying that he's earning 2 lakhs, but he's spending 6 lakhs to maintain it, it means his property is running him for a loss of 4 lakhs per annum, right?
Yeah,
That can't make sense. Then why is he having that property if it is making him a loss?
that is the problem. Yes, problem.
So yeah, so let's go with 50,000. Like he's spending 50,000. Gold again. Gold, debt, equity, cash. He's not spending anything. Okay. Um, one thing that I one mistake that I made here is 1 minute. I'll just quickly fix this. Okay. So so income I have shifted to what he earns. Okay. And cash,
Okay.
that is also 0. So what you see in the white cells, right? This is basically giving a percentage. Okay. So
Okay.
you can see where I have highlighted nearly 37% of his what he owns currently is in property. Okay. 18 in gold,
Yeah.
about 25 in debt. Okay.
Yeah.
According to you, again, he's getting 16 lakhs per annum. So which is 80% of his income.
Yes.
Okay. The other
Yes.
roughly 20% comes from his rental income, gold, debt, equity, and cash. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's just do a difference. So 1 minute. Difference is, basically. So yeah, difference is basically what he earns minus what he spends. You can see that highlighted, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So after accounting for that, his income is 80%. What he earns annually is about 80% of his income. Okay. The rest of
Okay.
it, his property, gold, all of it comes to somewhere around 18 to 19% of his income. I'm assuming this person that you're speaking, he's in his 30s or 40s, correct?
Yes.
He's not very far from retirement, correct?
No, no.
Okay. Yeah. So that was obvious. So can you give him a name? Any name?
You can take any name. It's okay. You cannot.
Okay. Let's call him Bhuvan. What
Okay.
is his age? Let's make it 35.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, okay. Wait, I got a few. I've got a Ashish. So average equity. So I'm considering post-tax equity. Okay, and this is I'm assuming a very conservative number. You are right. 12% is what you can assume, but that's not after tax. I'm assuming 9% conservative post-tax. Oh, Simranjit, yes. For the purpose of for the purpose of this template, I'm not including expenses. I mean, I can, but it will be very complicated. That's all. Okay. Having said that, in the next spreadsheet that I will look at, I will tell you where we will consider expenses. Okay. Okay. So Bhuvan, see. So the person is Bhuvan. He's age 35. He currently owns 66. His total AUM. His total net
Okay.
worth 66 lakhs.
Yeah.
He's earning nearly 19, close to 19 lakhs. Okay.
Okay.
And he's getting an ROI of 29.
I think
Percent.
something is wrong. Property will not give that much of return.
1 minute. Yeah, that's what I'm also.
If it is 250 crores, I mean 2.5 crores, then it is correct. But
Yeah. 1 minute.
mostly a lakh is also difficult.
Yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute. Sai, you made a good point. Just give me a minute.
25 lakhs of property gives 2 lakhs of rent. Everybody will invest in that property itself. Nobody will go and invest in
No, no,
equities or
no, no,
anything.
that's okay. Okay, that's a huge number. Okay, let's even if we were to fix that to
50,000 is the
1.
max. 50,000, not even
No, no, no.
50,000.
Okay, that's only one part of the problem. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. I got this. Yeah. Just a minute. Be no. The reason is when I considered his earning, I also considered his salary. So yeah, now it's okay, right? Sai.
Yes, Srini, it's
Okay. So again, Bhuvan, coming back. So your friend, he owns 66 lakhs. Okay. His all his assets, which are property, gold, debt, equity, and cash. All of these put together fetch him nearly 2.6 lakhs. Okay. If you do an ROI calculation, it comes to around 4%. Okay. Are you with me so far? Hello, Bhuvan. Sai, is he still there?
he is on mute. No problem. You continue.
Okay, so for the benefit of everyone else, so Mr. Bhuvan, he's age 35. He has an AUM of 66 lakhs. He's currently earning 2 point. His AUM is fetching him 2.6 lakhs per annum. The ROI therefore would be close to 4%. Now the actual ROI is like after adjusting for inflation, it comes to minus 2.02%. It is coming to minus 2.02% because if you look at my screen, I have assumed the inflation to be 6%. Okay. Now the point to note here is 6% is the official inflation figure. Okay. In most cases it will never be below 6%. Secondly, if you have kids who go to school or if you have parents who need medical attention, most likely your personal inflation is much higher. For example, medical inflation tends to be around 10 to 12%. Okay. So, so whenever you speak to an investor, please change this figure accordingly. Okay. So here is a pie chart of Mr. Bhuvan's investments. 19% of his of what he makes per annum is from his income. Okay, 30% is his property. Gold comes to around 14%. And here is a simple graph that shows that his investments are actually not beating inflation. On the contrary, they are losing money steadily. Okay, so if you start at, let's say, if in 2021, after adjusting for inflation, if it is 66 lakhs, it will be around 55 lakhs 10 years from now. Okay, now in this case, Mr. Bhuvan may not know because he's earning actually a lot. He's earning close to nearly 16 lakhs per annum. But the fact remains that his current asset allocation is not good enough and that they are not fetching him a good enough return. Okay, how come he's earning 2.63? Okay, so Sumanta, I will answer that. Okay, so I will. Do you see the cells highlighted in orange from H5 to H9? Property, gold, debt, equity, and cash. Okay, so for property, we have assumed that it is fetching him 1 lakh per annum as rent. Gold, debt, equity, gold and debt, we have assumed that it fetches 6% in gains, equity at 9%. So if you do all of this, yes, his asset allocation is fetching him around 2.6 lakhs per annum, which is an ROI of around 4%.
Srini, I think what they are not able to understand is salary is something he is earning. But here we are not discussing about salary. We are discussing about portfolio.
Correct.
Portfolio
So in the pie
consists
chart,
of,
yeah, you're right. In the pie chart, the salary should not come. You're right. Is that
yes,
what you're saying?
yes.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Let me just.
And 2.6 lakhs is coming from the 66 lakhs of investment he made.
Yes, correct. Yes. So the pie chart needs to be fixed. You're right.
Yes.
So
A2.
so actually, so when I deleted those numbers, I think I just I think removed some formulas. So yeah, by the way, guys, that tells you, it's not enough to just have a calculator. You actually need to know how the formulas are connected to each other, because if you even change one thing at one place, everything else gets changed. Anyway, so for the purpose of this discussion, you are right. This blue section highlighted in, it should not be there. I can edit this dart, but we have another, exercise to do. So, so we will leave it here. Okay. Just to summarize, Mr. Bhuvan, he's age 35. He has an AUM of 66 lakhs, which is fetching him rupees 2.6 lakhs per annum, an ROI of 4%. After adjusting for inflation, it is actually negative, nearly minus 2%. Okay. You do a simple graph, if in 2021, if it stands at, 66 lakhs, in 10 years from now, that is in the year 2030, it will be around 55 lakhs. But again, in the case of Mr. Bhuvan, he's earning, an income of close to 16 lakhs per annum. So he will not really feel it until he does an exercise like this. Okay, moving on, we come to a template that I had shared earlier. So some of you may know this. About a couple of months back, I had done an entire presentation called Levers of Wealth. It is given in a YouTube playlist. If you're not able to find it, I can share the link after this session, or I can also share it if you just reach out to me on WhatsApp. So do we have any volunteers? If you're there, you can raise your hand and we will Sumanta, wait, you said it should be 3.13. Sumanta, okay, yeah, my number is, I'm there in every WhatsApp group. Okay, so you can reach out to me on 3.1.
Okay. Hello.
Do we have, may I know who this is?
Divya. I wanted to ask you one question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, your spreadsheets is like 2 questions that you were talking about. First, where are you today?
Yes,
and where you want
this
to
is
be.
Where he's today.
So can you just explain? Can you explain your spreadsheet that
yes.
where are you today from where you want to be with formulas, like you are actually explaining by per person. Okay. So the ROI you have explained, like actual ROI is like minus 2.02% today.
Correct.
Are you talking about annually or per month? I don't know.
It's annual. ROI, we are
okay.
That's annual.
Okay, so today these are the numbers today, and where you want to be. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. So this tab current, this explains where he is today. Okay. Now we can take the example of someone else. Okay, or we can take the example of Mr. Bhuvan himself. Okay. I think Sumanta, he made a point. Sumanta, actually, I think since you have the link yourself, why don't you play around with the numbers and see if it is coming out all right. If it is not, we can connect separately offline and take this. We are already running short of time, and I have to finish this exercise as well, and then we have Q&A. Okay, so Ms. Divya, do you have, since you are on audio anyway, can you tell me a few numbers?
Okay. From where do I start?
Okay, so let's take your example. Okay, how much cash, how much money do you have currently? This is the previous balance. How much money do you have currently?
5 lakhs.
5 lakhs, okay. How much are you earning currently? What is your current income?
2.5 lakhs.
2.5. I think I've done this previously with you, right? This exercise we did, even last time when we did this with you, right?
I was not there.
Achha, you are not there. Okay, maybe it might. Okay. Yeah, so it is 2.5 lakhs. It is getting rounded off to the next digit, but it is still, wait, since 1 minute. Yep. It is 2.5 lakhs. How much annual growth? What is the increment that you are expecting?
2.5.
No. In percentage. Is it 10%, 12%? 12%, right?
12%.
Okay. Okay, so this, for the purpose of the discussion, lever 1 increment, I'm not explaining it here. So that we will leave, that we will mark it as 0. If you want to know more, you can, I had done a session on this earlier, you can go through it. So you have 5 lakhs currently, you're earning 2.5 lakhs. You expect an increment of 12% per annum, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Of this 2.5 lakhs per annum, okay, how much are you investing currently?
1 lakh.
Per annum, correct?
Correct.
So 1 lakh per annum is around 40%. Wait, yeah, 1 lakh is 40%. Yeah, so you are investing 40% of your annual income. Okay, can you increase your investment every year? Like, let's say if you are investing, for 1 lakh this year or 40% this year, can you make it 41.5 or 42% next year? Like, can you gradually increase your savings?
So that is what I'm asking you. How you'll put the numbers there?
Yeah. So see, okay. So there are. So this spreadsheet was created to explain three levers. One, how much you earn, how much you save, and how much ROI you get. Okay. So when I say lever one increment, okay, I'm actually referring to how much extra can you earn. So you are saying that you will get an increment of 12%. My question is, if you worked a little, can you make 12% as 14%?
Right.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we are adding an additional 2% here. Okay. Similarly, you are currently saving 40%. Now, let us say if you did some budgeting, okay, if you were a little careful every year, okay, do you think you can increase your savings percentage every year?
So it depends.
No, this is a projection. Okay. So you have to tell me if you will be, let us assume, this is not a prediction that you will be able to do it. This is a projection. So we will assume that you will be able to do it. Can you do it?
No, see, I cannot understand the L2 invest. What you're talking about? 1.5.
So currently you are investing 40%, right? I am
Yeah.
asking L2 refers to lever 2. Okay, like
Okay.
if you worked a little hard on saving and investing, can you increase your savings percentage?
Yes.
Yes. So we will keep this separate. Okay. When I say separate, so instead of 40%, you're saving 40% in your first year, 41.5% in your next year, so on. So basically, every year you are saving more and more of your salary. Correct? We are assuming that. Divya, are you
Okay.
with?
So what if we don't? Yeah. What if we don't save?
See, what if you don't save, then you won't be able to invest, right? I mean, that's straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so see so some of the terms here, please ignore the terms given on the left. That you will be able to understand only when you do or when you go through my earlier session on levers of wealth. Okay,
Okay.
but anyway, my question is, so you are increasing your savings percentage by 1.5% every year. So let's say if
Yeah.
you saved and invested 40% this year, next year it is 41.5, then 43, 44. Okay, until you reach a maximum of 66% of your income. Okay, nobody can save 100% of their income. So we are keeping an upper limit. An upper limit is 66%. Okay, now what are all the instruments in which you have put your money? Like where is your money lying currently?
See, the previous you told that currently it's minus 2.02. What you were talking about the other person,
No,
and
so that
in
was a
this
different person.
spreadsheet you're talking about some other example.
Divya, that was a different person. Okay. In this, I'm
Yeah.
considering your example. Okay. I mean, since Bhuvan was not here and he could not tell me the numbers, so I thought of speaking to you and getting your numbers. So can you tell me your ROI? Basically, what is the current ROI of your investments?
7.50.
No, that is what I had assumed previously. You can tell me your numbers.
So that will come. That will be calculated in a spreadsheet. I don't know what exactly will be my current ROI.
Okay. Okay. So which is why I asked you, where have you put your money?
I don't know where have I put up my money.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So for the purpose of this discussion, let's assume that you are getting 7%. Okay. Your current ROI is getting you 7%. Every year you are increasing it by 0.5%. Okay. You keep increasing it until you get an ROI limit of 10%. Okay. So Divya, Divya, and for the benefit of Divya and everyone else here, I will quickly explain. So Divya has a current balance of 5 lakhs, which means today she has 5 lakhs rupees. Her current income is rupees 2.5 lakhs. This income will grow by 12% every year. On top of that, Divya decides to maybe do a little overtime and increase it from 12% to 14%. Okay, 12 plus 2. So this is her income. Now we go to her investment, which is the second lever. Okay, currently she is investing 40% of her savings, but starting this year, she decides to be a little careful. She does a little budgeting and she increases her savings percentage every year. So let us say if it is 40% this year, next year it will be 41.5. Then the year after that, it will be 43, then 44.5, and so on. It will keep increasing until it hits a maximum of 66%. In other words, she will keep increasing her savings percentage until it reaches a maximum of 66% or 2/3. Okay. Then we come to the final component of her, current income. Sorry, her AUM. Okay. Currently, all her investments are fetching 7% income. Okay, they are growing by 7% per annum. Again, Divya, she either invests with Wealthy or with someone else. She invests in equity, debt, and she gradually increases it by 0.5% every year. She changes her asset allocation. Okay, so from 7%, it becomes next year it becomes 7.5, then 8, then 8.59, so on until it reaches 10% per annum. Okay, so we have done all this. So Divya, after assuming all this, this is what your numbers will look like after 15 years. Okay, after 15 years, Divya, are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, after 15 years, you will have a portfolio of 122 lakhs, which is 1.22 crores. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but if you adjust it for inflation, it will come to 47.5 lakhs. Remember in this case, okay, since we considered the inflation to be 6% in the previous example, we will consider it 6% here as well. So after adjusting for inflation, after 15 years, you will have an AUM of 54 lakhs. The other way of looking at this is that 15 years later, you will have money that is worth today's 54 lakhs. That is what adjusting for inflation does. Okay. Similarly, if you were to continue the same thing, if you were to continue on the same path after 20 years, which is in the year 2040, this is year 2021. Okay. 20 years from now would be year 2040, not 2041. In the year 2040, your total AUM or your total savings, whether you call it AUM, portfolio savings, whatever, your total AUM would be close to 297 lakhs, which is close to 3 crores. Okay. After you adjust it for inflation, it comes to nearly 1 crore. So Divya, does this answer your question of where you will be in future?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, again, we assumed how much you have today, how much you earn currently, how much you can grow it, okay, how much you can save. The savings is given in yellow, okay, and then finally how you can change your asset allocation. Like for example, if you have put your money in bank deposits, okay, if instead of bank deposits you put your money in SIP or mutual funds or debt, equity or whatever, you can increase your ROI. So by doing all these three things, you can not only increase your savings, you can also look at where you will be 15 years from now and 20 years from now. In fact, for your benefit, I've also done it for 25 years. Okay. And by the way,
so can you actually explain this on a pie chart?
So I haven't done a pie. I mean, I can add a pie chart if you want, but there were too many numbers here, so I didn't add a pie chart. So I guess that, and we are at the end of this session, so we will have to stop this presentation here. But I'm hoping that everyone understood both these. Okay, let me just quickly take a few questions. Okay. How it comes in negative ROI when earning is good, then ample arm. Okay, Tapan. So here is the thing, Tapan, I did not consider his income. Okay, I considered only his the assets that he has. If I were to consider his income, yes, it will be in positive. Okay, but the fact is, his assets are not earning him enough. If tomorrow if his earning like if for whatever reason his income stops, or if he retires, his his returns will go in negative. So again, that is fairly obvious from the sheet. Ashish, what is the difference in expected growth and increment? Okay, so see, expected growth. So again, all of this will be clearer when you go through the presentation that I did a little earlier. But basically, expected growth is what you will do, what you will get without putting in any extra effort. Okay, so let's say if you are getting 10% as a regular increment, what if you were to do a little overtime, or what if you were to take up a second job or do something else, basically to increase your income? So increment is over and above what you are getting currently. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Nikhil, wait, I think this sheet is we have shared it many times so far. Okay, yeah. So I think are there any other questions? See, like I said at the start of this presentation, the best way is to make a copy of the sheet, put your numbers yourself, see the formulas. Again, it's a fairly simple thing. All of this is based on simple 5th grade maths, addition, subtraction, and division, multiplication. Okay, I'm there in every WhatsApp group, so I'll be more than happy to take any individual queries that we have. But on the subject of asset allocation, and since we have Mr. Sai Prashant here, do you have any questions on the subject of either asset allocation or any other investments with Wealthy? Prashant, yes, I have not considered any other contingency, primarily because it is hard to predict, and the sheet was getting complicated as it is. Okay, you are right. If you want, you can
Srini,
add,
you can tell simple. What happens is if you show a lot of numbers also, it doesn't make any sense. First of all, what we have to make it simple and easy. Suppose let's take, I am going to my client. I should be easy. Like how much I am investing, how much I am getting. It's simple math. So if you complicate, then what happens is your complication will make him not to understand. Why? Because too many questions, too many answers. So it requires little bit of easing your work.
That's a good point that Sai made. Your aim is to make him clearer, not confuse him with numbers. Okay, Divya, can you wait? Let me see if I can search for it on. Divya, can you just message me on WhatsApp? I'll try to share a link here. In the meantime, do you have any other questions? Regarding doing, whether it is approaching investors or finding out their goals. Any other question? I would like to reiterate here, the advantage of like if you didn't understand these numbers, then I would simply suggest just take a piece of pen and paper and, do a simple calculation, where am I today? Where do I want to be tomorrow? Okay. Then consider inflation. When you just do these simple numbers, right, you will realize, the problems with your current portfolio. Until you do the numbers, you will not be able to understand. Sumanta, you will be added to your WhatsApp group in a couple of days. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, Sai, you are the expert on that, unlisted stocks.
What is the investment in unlisted stocks? So what happens is unlisted stocks comes under equity only. So based on the risk appetite and age, you can consider that. It's not like it's out of the portfolio which we have discussed.
Sai, can you quickly also explain what makes unlisted different from all other kinds, if you can, in the next 2 minutes?
Yeah. Let's take an example. Equity investments are subject to market risk. Every day I have to see the market, what is Nifty, what is opening, what is the stock, then what is update on the stock. So instead of, I can give you a peaceful mind, wait for 1 year, at least 25 to 30% is the return. Then what you will do, happily you will stay. That is how unlisted gives you the peace of mind, and even client also. Let's take example. We have sold so many stocks, starting with Reliance Retail, Studs, Merino, uh, HDB, Hero FinCorp, Five Star Financials, Lava. So all these shares are good fundamental companies. We are not suggesting the companies which are bad. First of all, we want a company which is fundamentally well built, and client will hold at least 2 to 3 years and wait for some years more. Why? Because his peace of mind is there. It's not like every day he has to come into the market. What is the share price? Whether it has gone up or down. So the patience is important. So in direct equity, it is not there, whereas in private equities or unlisted stocks, it is there. That makes the differentiation factor. With peace of mind, if I'm getting 30%, I'm happily investing into that. Why? Because nowhere I'm getting 30% in return. It's direct or mutual fund, I'm telling you. Can we have a calculation for required yearly income for retirement, considering maintaining same lifestyle and comparing it with the future sheet if we can hit the target? Ashish, what
Ashish,
you asked is a good point, but what happens is every client has its own clauses. So better is we will explain you how to create a spreadsheet on your own in the next session or so that it will make your work easy. It's all about your maintaining your client.
Okay, guys. A quick response to Ashish. See, there are these ready-made templates available online. Okay, so I think it mentions your standard withdrawal rate. So there are templates available for that. But again, like I said, the best one is one you can make for your client right in front of himself. Okay, like show him how it is done. Let him see for himself. The advantage is that you will not be pushing him in anything. He will see it for himself, what is wrong with his current finances and what he needs to do. So yeah, if you have any if more such people like Ashish want a template like that, I can spend maybe half an hour or 45 minutes and create a template like that. It's not a big deal, but like I said, this is basic Excel work. I mean, I don't think it should be particularly hard. Divya, if you can just hold on for a minute, I will also share the link of the levers of wealth presentation that I had done about 3 or 4 months back. Okay, Paramjit ji, you can find it here. So yeah, you can save it, or like I said, it is also available on our YouTube playlist. Or if nothing works, just go to YouTube, search "Wealthy Levers of Wealth." You should be able to get it. And if you still don't get it, please reach out to me on WhatsApp. I'm there in every WhatsApp group. So yeah. So okay, we are nearly 10 minutes past our closing time. So any final questions? Um, I would like to take questions related to asset classes, which was the focus of today's presentation, or any other investment related questions for our expert, Mr. Sai Prashant here, if you have him. Okay, since we are not getting any questions, I think then we can wrap up today's session. Okay, before we do, let me see. I just have one final question to ask you guys. Okay, and this is our sign-off question. So, did all of you find today's session helpful? The question to ask yourself is: after today's session, do you think you have learned anything that will help you sell better? Prasanna, please also tell us using the poll. Your responses are anonymous, so we will not know who has said what. But please use the poll. Harish, Sandeep, Sudhakar, please use the poll. for those of you who have felt that it could have been better or that it was not good enough, it would be great if you can, message me here or on the WhatsApp group saying what we could have done better. We are always trying to improve our presentation content. So please, I'll be very grateful if you can tell me what I could have done to improve it. We will keep this poll for another 5-10 seconds. We've got only about 20 responses. Can we have a few more? Okay, we end the poll here. Okay, so more than half of you said that you really liked it. And Sudhakar, again, can you tell me which WhatsApp group you are a part of? We have many WhatsApp groups. So yeah, or like I said, my WhatsApp number is here, please. And my name is you can reach out to me either on email or on WhatsApp, and I'll answer all remaining questions. Please also share your feedback. That will also help. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So yeah, without any further delay, thanks for attending. Thanks a lot, Sai, for your time and for patiently answering all the questions. Tomorrow, for those of you who are new on the platform, we have a session by Mr. Srimanta Patra on mutual funds. The next master class will be held on Tuesday at the same time. You will get a notification on your WhatsApp. Until then, it's goodbye from me, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you.